What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week of UFC action. We've got UFC Nashville on deck this Saturday. And man, an ever-changing fight card. The main event itself got changed. We have Corey Sandhagen taking on short notice replacement Rob Font at a catchweight at 140. Good old co-main event with the women's strawweight Tatiana Suarez and Jessica Andrade. And man, Narco, how many short notice opponents does Sean Woodson have now? I think this is number 4, right?
Yeah, I think they're gonna call up my son pretty soon.
Dude, eventually. It's funny, I was looking at Sean Woodson's Instagram just to see what the hell is going on, and every time he updates a new side-by-side of him and his new opponent, it's just a different picture every couple hours. So we still have 12 fights in this card. Glad to be joined by my guy, NarcocOp. I don't know what happened, Narco. This week, man, usually I'm right on time with like dropping my full card breakdowns. I feel like I lost a day this week. Before you knew it, I was late last night. I'm like, I haven't dropped my full card breakdown. I'm already going to be breaking down fights with Narco in 15 hours. Let me just make this all together. Just do one full card breakdown. We'll do it together and talk about all the bets and leans we have on this card. And honestly, there's a good opportunity to play a lot of dogs this week if you're so inclined. Some of these fights have line movements that I caught early on a couple of bets, and there's some where I'm still waiting to get that top number as the market goes in my favor for the underdog. So how are you feeling altogether, and how'd you do last week?
Feeling good. Last week, track plays I lost, but overall I won. Also won on, I told you about Terrence Crawford, the boxing. Yeah. Made some good money there. Had one of my biggest bets there. So, overall it was a good week for me. You know, I had a decent size winning week. But track plays weren't great. I think I lost 2.3 units, something like that. But yeah, it wasn't the worst week as far as track plays. I mean, you're going to have losing weeks. The year's been incredible. I mean, I'm up over 92 units for the year. So, I mean, I can't complain, dude. There's going to be rough weeks. It's the main thing is it's a marathon and not a sprint.
Yeah, man, I can't agree more. Last week was a historical one for me. Not only was it maybe the least amount of action I had on a card, but I lost everything last week, Narco. It was my first ever, in my 4 years only of doing this in MMA, that was my first reverse sweep where, man, I trusted Semmelsberger, looked good early. Man, he got knocked out late. Trusted just a small play on Ribeiro. Looked good a little bit early, got knocked out round 2. And then I had just a fun, play on Dustin Poirier, which I knew was going to be a sweat. I knew it wasn't really a value play. And then, competitive early, knocked out by a head kick. Everybody was getting knocked out, on my slate. So those were the 3 plays I had. And all 3 of them came crashing down. At least it was dramatically, right? At least it wasn't robbery by split. At least we got to see some violence out of it. So looking to come back and, have a better week this week. But like I said, this card is pretty sketchy. But it should be a fun one, man. So second time on my show, Narco. I didn't give you a grand introduction, but for those who don't know, man, I know you run your Friday night show with the great Tim Troiano, who was on my show a couple weeks ago, the Lambo Plays podcast. Like you said, you guys are having a great year, just dropping Lambo Plays left and right. And, man, you guys are killing it in the live Twitter spaces as well, right?
Yeah, it's been incredible. That show has been, it's just been money, man. Like my co-host's been great. I've been great. The live spaces is awesome, man. Every Saturday for the fight card, we basically, give people our opinions on where you should go with the live lines, and a lot of times there's a lot of profit to be made on live plays.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from talking to Tim and hearing you guys in there about the live betting, because that's something that before you guys, I never really dabbled in that much, and I still don't do all that often, but when I do have the chance to sit down and watch the fights live, I do like listening to you guys, and they're dropping some knowledge and just the props and advice you give on that. You guys have such an eye for it, so I can't wait to get your opinion on this fight card since it is a shifty one. But let me shout out the chat before we do so. My guy Tyler, 138 MMA. It should be a lot of fun, man. Everybody go check out Tyler's page, 138 MMA. This guy is dropping a lot of content. And I think just like Narco, I think he's going to be doing some Dana White Contender Series stuff in the coming week as well. So check out his page. And my guy Jussie Q in the house asking anybody if they touched that Holland by Darce at plus 3,000. Narco, Jussie was in here last week and he dropped that play. And there's a couple of people who echoed that. I wonder if anybody touched that. I didn't have access to it, but I saw a lot of Holland by sub betters there. And I posted Just EQ's comment on my YouTube page. So that was pretty cool to see that come to fruition for him. I know he multiplied his money. So good to see you in here. Got squad shit. And talking about some props on BetMGM. We only have Bet Rivers so far, as Narco was saying before the show started. So I don't know why DraftKings and everybody else is taking forever to drop their props, but hopefully Narco has that page up. We can talk about him as we go. My guy Daz Files in the house, and let's go. Zen Monkey, Kristen in the house, Zach Johnson, my guy Shady. We got all the heavy hitters in here. Even Jenna Marie in the house saying, good evening, boys, cheersing us. Hopefully you are sipping something nice. I don't have any sake. I know is that your beverage of choice, Narco? Usually is a sake drinker.
I love sake, man. That's you know what? Now that you remind me, last week we didn't have obviously a show, but 2 weeks ago, I had some sake and I think we hit 6 Lambo. So I think it's got to be a thing now. Like I have to be drinking sake on the Lambo show.
Was that your day drinking stream where you were just high energy the whole time?
Dude, I was probably a 3/4 of the bottle in.
That was amazing, dude. Yeah, I'm not a big sake drinker. I should start though. I like whiskey and I like I'm a gym bro. I like my chicken and rice. So why not combine the two, right? Joshua Frick said Narco the GOAT. Absolutely, man. Live betting is the way. SD Crusader in the house. My guy Michael Salazar giving us the flex. We can get started on this card. We have 12 fights to get through. And starting off the prelims, we have a debuting fighter, Asu Almabaev, one of these Kazakh fighters off the regional scene in Europe, taking on Ode Osborne at flyweight. This is a fight that I do have a play on, Narco, and just to kick it off briefly, I was pretty impressed by what I saw from Asu Almabaev. Not blown away, but at least we got to see him tested against some former UFC talent overseas. His wrestling looks strong. His cardio over 3 rounds looks incredibly strong as well. And I like that he is more of one of these submission over position wrestlers. And until his opponent kind of squirms and takes a risk to get back up, then he'll start diving on subs. But overall, striking, I think he's outmatched against Ode, but I am on the Almabaev side. I took his money line at minus 140. I felt kind of weird about that to win 1 unit, but now it's since moved all the way up to, what are we at, minus 190 for Almabaev. So I didn't expect it to go that way, but how do you feel about this fight altogether? Am I writing off Ode Osborne here?
No, I don't think so, man. I got a bet here as well on Abu. I got it like last week sometime.
Yeah.
I quickly recorded this fight, and because I wasn't familiar with the fighter, right? I was like, who is this guy? I don't really, and I know a lot of regional fighters, but it didn't ring a bell. So I went quickly, recorded this guy real quick, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's a relentless wrestler. Like this guy loves to wrestle, and his cardio checks out, his wrestling checks out, his striking doesn't really check out, but he does throw pretty hard when he's on the feet, but mostly throwing hard to kind of set up his takedowns. He's not really, he knows where he's good at it, and that's the wrestling. And when I went back and I watched some of Osborne's tape, right? Osborne's a very big 25er, right? Like this guy is very big. He has a hard time cutting to 25, and that's one of the issues in this fight, right? When you're having a hard time cutting to 25, you're a bigger guy, you tend to gas out a little quicker. And we've seen that on tape a lot from Osborne, right? He slows down. He really doesn't have the cardio to go 3, tough rounds. He went 3 rounds against Johnson last fight, but there's an asterisk to it. He took 5 minutes on a low blow from Johnson. So he took 5 minutes to rest. You don't see many
I forgot
fighters,
about that. That is true.
Yeah, you don't see many UFC fighters take 5 minutes, right? Like you just don't see it. But yet Osborne took the full 5 minutes, and he knew why. Like he was slowing down a lot in that fight. And I was speaking to Charles Johnson in the DMs, and I'm like, if he doesn't take those full 5 minutes, I'm 100% sure you were going to break him, and he's going to just gas out.
Right.
So you watch the Vergara fight, same thing. He gasses, he loses the third pretty bad. If there's like a minute left, he probably gets finished. Asu has insane cardio and insane grappling. And the one thing I saw from Osborne is you look at his career, and he hasn't really faced any grapplers in the UFC. Mm-hmm. The one guy that decided to grapple him was Brian Kelleher. Got an easy single leg takedown. This guy scooted to the fence, and then Kelleher got him in a guillotine, right? Kelleher is not really that good of a wrestler. So when I see that, right, and I see Asu is a very good wrestler, I think this is a big trouble for him here in this fight, Osborne. So I think he honestly breaks him. This Asu guy, I don't think he's has a ton of ground and pound. I don't think he's a very good submission grappler. But when you're dead tired and a guy's on top of you, smothering you, you eventually break. And I think he's going to get broken here in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what did it for me too, is looking back and seeing I try to look for similar attributes in their opponents, right? Like I looked at Ode Osborne, I'm like, wow, a lot of his fights he either finishes quickly and they're not really against a lot of wrestlers, right? So I noticed the same thing, and that's what made me more confident in betting Asu here now. Where the money line is at now, I don't hate anybody like Zach Johnson saying if it keeps going up, because if Asu can't get those takedowns, I think he is in trouble on the feet. Ode Osborne's got that early power. He is a very explosive guy that tends to gas late, as we mentioned, but he does have that kind of like featherweight length and power at this weight class that I think would give Almabaev trouble. But yeah, Ode Osborne finished in, I think, every single one of his UFC losses, right? I don't think he's ever lost a decision in the UFC. He got guillotined by Kelleher, knocked out by Kopp, and knocked out by Tyson Nam as well last year. So yeah, man, I'm glad we're on the same side of that one. I'm almost surprised. But yeah, that money line I picked up over the weekend, it was one of the first fights I taped since I wasn't familiar with Almabaev either. And yeah, just 1.4 units to win one on this one. But where the money line is at now, I'd start looking at that Ode side if you wanted to play this at all. Just hoping that this doesn't, hit the mat and Ode can sprawl and brawl. What do you think about the finishing props for Almabaev, since we have seen Ode finish so much?
I'm not going to pick sub or KO, but I like him to break him eventually. That's why I'm going with round 2, round 3. I don't think it happens early. I think Ode is pretty strong early when he has cardio. He's a strong guy. He's a big guy. He hits pretty damn hard on the feet. He's the cleaner striker. I mean, I don't want that to be twisted here. The problem is the matchup is no good. The matchup, as far as the grappling aspect, is no good for him here. Now, the one thing I can say is, I didn't mention it, Ode off his back is a little dangerous. He has long limbs. He can throw up a triangle. I've seen this guy, Asu, get put in a triangle from bottom. But so can't discount that, but he fought through it. He didn't tap. So, maybe he has to put him to sleep in order for this guy to tap. But overall, like, you got to look at the big picture. This is a bad matchup, in my opinion, for Ode Osborne. And he has a very tough weight cut to 25, guys. Last fight out, it was at 30. It was a catch weight against Johnson. This is 25, and this guy at 25 really, really has a bad gas tank. And I know this guy said Makavovsky to split.
Yeah, former UFC fighter.
Is an insane wrestler, bro. Like, this guy's a very, 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 very good wrestler. And that matchup was just one of those matchups where two wrestlers were clashing. So that's why he won by split. But this guy, Makavovsky, like, I think former UFC guy, I don't think he's ever been finished either. Like, maybe early in his career, I don't remember. But in the UFC, this guy fought really, really good guys, and none of them ever fucking finished him,
Yeah, even guys like Dodson, who are powerful starters, kind of like Ode. But that was one of those fights where I totally get where Zach's coming from on this one, where it's like, I'm not looking at Almabaev like he's going to be, the next top 15, front runner. You know what I mean? So I got no worries about this guy going to a split in this spot. I just think he can beat Ode with the skill set. I'm not thinking that this guy's going to be the next big thing from Kazakhstan just yet. But we'll see how it goes. Glad we're on the same side of that one. My guys, Chronic Conversation in the house, Chronic Combat. It's an awesome guest. Great show as always. We love you guys. Good to see you, Guru and TB in here. Yeah, we're thinking about those late round props as well. And small cage, we're in Nashville, so this should be a bigger cage, right? This should be the normal sized octagon in Nashville. So I know my guys, Johnny K and Cody from Blood Money MMA Bets, they should be there live too. Wonder if anybody else is going to be at that event. I couldn't get off of work to go to that one this time around and meet them there, but should be a fun fight card to show up to. But we move on to this short notice bout at 145, featherweight bout between Sean Woodson and the debut of Dennis Buzukja. Now, we've seen Dennis Buzukja on the Contender Series twice. We saw him years ago in 2020 against Melsik Bagdasaryan. He got picked apart, doubled up on strikes, and that was the story of that fight. He lost the decision there. Going back to the regional scene, picking up a couple of wins, going back to the Contender Series last year. And unfortunately, he showed up on the night where Dana was in a bad mood because he had a decent fight, I thought, Narco, and won a decision against a wrestler from Team Alpha Male. Did pretty good, sprawling and brawling, and won the fight by decision pretty, emphatically, I thought. I mean, I thought he did a good job and a good effort, but wasn't a star-studded finish to get the contract. So had to go back to the regional scene, and he's picked up a few more finishes in UAE Warriors, CFFC, and I think Dennis Buzukja, I mean, he's kind of just a generalist out of Cerro Longo, so he's got the skills. He trains at a good camp, but, he's down to strike with you, throw some good body kicks, but he can also wrestle as well. And his defensive wrestling, I think, has come a long way. Now, against Sean Woodson, probably won't be tested all that much. Sean Woodson's just a tall, freakishly big for the weight class boxer at like 6'2". But man, how bad did he look in his last fight last summer, right? I know it was at altitude in Salt Lake City, but he got pieced apart by Luis Saldana in round 1 and should have been taken out by TKO, right, Narco?
I mean,
dude, if it wasn't for Luis Saldana, like they're celebrating early. I think
what a low. I mean, not even celebrating. Like he drops him once, he gets up, he drops him again. And then instead of just like the ref was really close to stopping it, yeah. I see Saldana like running towards him. I'm like, okay, he's going to throw one ground and pound, hit him with one strike, and the ref is going to stop the fight because Woodson looks very compromised, right?
What was the strike that he chose? What was the one strike he chose to throw?
A fucking knee while the guy was down, for Christ's sake. What are you doing, dude? So the fight stops. He gets a point taken. It's all fucked up at this point. And eventually the fight goes to, I think, a draw. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? So, I mean, it was a terrible look against the guy, honestly, Saldana, that don't think is very good at all. So it was a kind of a bad look. So now he fights this dude, and Buzukja, I don't think is very good, to be honest. Like, he's tough, he's durable, he's got good defensive wrestling. I don't think his hands are very good. I don't think his BJJ is very good. But if he decides to come out and put his wrestling shoes on here and try to get some takedowns and maybe kick those skinny legs of Woodson, yeah, he might have something there, right? He's very tough. I'll give him that. Like he's a typical Cerro Longo guy, like really tough, always coming forward, similar to that Nazim guy, but Nazim has much crisper striking than this dude, right? So
and power to match it too.
Yeah, and power to match it. This guy really doesn't have those attributes, but he is super durable. He is tough. He's a grinder. He has good cardio. So he could give Woodson. I mean, if this line blows out, I might play Buzukja just because it's Sean Woodson.
I'm looking at minus 175 Woodson plus 150 Buzukja. Is that about right?
I'm probably looking for like the 180 range on Buzukja because it's super short notice. And Woodson's the much better striker. Like he's very long. But that's all he does. He's a one-trick pony.
Yeah, I mean, I like the body work. Obviously, if you watch a fight where Sean Woodson's in the driver's seat and people are backing up, like Colin England, like perfect fight for Sean Woodson to go in there, dictate the pace, switches stances, constantly jabs out of both sides, front kick, body kicks out of both sides, and but if he gets bullied and if Dennis Buzukja can catch him out of position, sometimes Sean Woodson will miss with a big 1-2 and get himself completely out of position, chin up in the air to get overhand righted. I could see something like that happening on the Buzukja side, but like we mentioned, just Buzukja is such a generalist so far with his skill set. I just don't really see anything standing out that would make me want to back him unless the number was just out of whack, like you said. So I'm going to side with Sean Woodson, all things considered. This is a extremely short notice bout. Some big physical advantages going against him here for Buzukja, and he just doesn't really impress me. So I'm going to pick Sean Woodson. Staying away from this one, it's a dog or pass for me after seeing Woodson look so bad last time out. And we talked about this right before we went live, but man, how disappointing that it's not Myron Santos filling in on short notice. That was an announced bout. That was Woodson's third opponent. out of the LFA. And Santos looks like a very improved kickboxer. That's a guy who would have given Sean Woodson hell with the leg kicks, like you mentioned, Buzukja should in this one. So I'm a little bit disappointed we don't get that matchup. But hey, Dennis Buzukja's been improved. Like I said, he fought I think one of his first career losses was against a wrestler. He was able to, show improvements in that in his last Contender Series bout. He got outstruck by a striker in Melsik Bagdasaryan. No shame there. He's shown on the regional scene some ability to look better in that regard. So 25 years old, the guy's leveling up. Whatever, I think he's got potential. I just think Woodson's got the advantage here on in camp for a fight. So that's as much as we can really learn from that one. Interested to see any over-unders in this one sticking out to you. I can't really think of why this would smell violence more than anything else.
Yeah, I don't really have anything as far as over-unders on this fight. For me, it's just like a complete stay away. It's last second. Buzukja's hard to get out of there. Maybe he finishes Woodson later. I don't know. I'm not going to touch this fight probably. Most likely I'm not touching it anyway. I'm obviously going to have a Lambo play because I have it for every fight, but that's going to be a small poke, whatever it is.
Shout out to my guy 2 cents saying, yeah, passing here. That is the mood, my brother. So we can move on to something that's got people a little bit more split. And we'll see if we end up on the same side of this one or not. We got a flyweight bout between Jake Hadley and Cody Durden. This is a pretty fun matchup. You've got like the slick striking and clean BJJ of Jake Hadley, the former, I think it was Cage Warriors champion. And then he also came on the Contender Series. And now he's a current, 2-1 in the UFC so far. He just dropped his debut to Alan Nascimento, but he's come back with wins over Candelario and Malcolm Gordon. So kind of a couple of layups of opponents there, but he handled them appropriately. Cody Durden, on the other hand, this guy's always being counted out as an underdog. Very strong wrestling base and some improving striking. I think some underrated striking and power to back it up. But obviously a big youth advantage in the favor of Jake Hadley. He's 6 years younger at 26, and he's got a nice clean 10-1 record so far. Just dangerous everywhere the fight goes. It's just, can he level up that ability to keep the fight on the feet when he wants it to and enter the grappling when he wants it to? Alan Nascimento able to ground him, kind of hold him there and run out the clock that way. But Jake Hadley, he can hit some reversals if need be, and he's got that really active guard as well. We saw him slap on a lightning quick triangle choke on Carlos Candelario. So Cody Durden does have to be wary of that. But where the money line, this is one of the money lines I mentioned. I'm waiting for it to just reach its peak, Narco, because I am on the Cody Durden side. I can't overlook it at this money line where he's at plus 170. I'm seeing now plus 175 on BetOnline. I'm just waiting to hit that number for just probably about 0.75 units. And I'll probably look for a book that has Cody Durden by decision and slap another quarter unit on that one. Jake Hadley, if he can sprawl and brawl, if he can keep this on the feet, I think he's got a very big striking advantage. But Durden does have some power, and where this line is headed, I can't help but think Cody Durden could win round 1 at a pretty high clip, and then hopefully just steal round 2 before maybe fading away in round 3 and hopefully not getting finished. But how do you see this fight playing out, and how do you think the pacing of this one's going to go?
Yeah, interesting fight. Jake Hadley is probably my favorite prospect at 25, to be honest. I think he has some of the best boxing at the 125-pound weight class. He has the best body work by far in 125. And he has this really nice, left uppercut that he throws to the body that he hurts a lot of guys with, man. It's a nasty liver shot. It absolutely depletes people. It kind of depleted Candelario. That's why Candelario shot for a takedown there and eventually got triangled, right? Candelario is a known, mainly a boxer. He's a Golden Glove boxer, and he wanted nothing to do with the boxing because Hadley, the thing is, he hits very hard. But the other thing that really attracts me to this guy is he has all the attributes of a guy that can succeed in the UFC. He's a very good boxer. He's got really, really good BJJ. We saw it against Nascimento, right? Nascimento is a huge 25er with excellent BJJ skills, right? We're talking about high-level BJJ. And you see in that fight where he goes for omoplata, reverses position, gets on top of Nascimento. Not many people are going to do that to Nascimento in the BJJ game. And there was other points in that match where he reversed, he got on top. He's threatening submissions all the time, and he's very, very dangerous. And the thing with Hadley is not only is he playing BJJ off his back, but he uses BJJ to reverse position. He's not just using it, throwing up submissions just to throw up submissions. He's using it to reverse positions. He's using it to get up. So, you know, I see this fight and I see Cody Durden. Yes, can he wrestle? Yeah, he's a very good wrestler. But I don't think he's going to get Jake Hadley's back like he does against Johnson. You know, Hadley is a lot better in the scrambles than a guy like Johnson is because he's super dangerous. Like I said it with BJJ. He uses guillotines. He uses other things so he can sweep you or do other things. So on the feet, I think it's a complete mismatch, to be honest. I think Hadley hits very, very hard. He's the much cleaner striker. And again, like, I don't see many weaknesses from this guy. He's got great cardio. He can go cardio for days. He hits hard. He's got great BJJ. And I honestly think when you watch Cody Durden, when he goes up against guys that have very good BJJ, he gets submitted. And it's a fact. You know, it happened earlier in his career. It happened against Jimmy Flick. You know, Makayev was more of a club and sub, but guys with very good BJJ get this guy. And you know, I think he probably gets a takedown or two, but he's going to feel so damn uncomfortable on the ground that eventually it's going to stand and eventually he might knock him out. You know, whether it be a knockout, submission, I don't really know how it's going to happen, but I think he gets finished here by Hadley. I have a pretty big bet on Hadley at -165. I figured this line's going to move, and I think it's going to continue to rise, Patrick. So if you like Cody Durden, I think you wait a little here and get a better number. But I find it very hard for me to see how he beats a guy like Hadley because, you know, Mitch Raposo that he fought on Contender Series is a very high-level wrestler himself. And go back and watch that fight. It's just he gives him a very hard time in the grappling, you know. So Hadley is just super dangerous. You know, Nascimento was a horrible matchup for him because it was his initial fight in the UFC, and Nascimento's just a monster. He's a big dude, and he has very, very good submission grappling. So he had a tough time with him, even though I think the fight was pretty close. It wasn't like a blowout. So we'll see here. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think Hadley is going to be a top 10 25er in the future. This guy's very young too, 26 years old. And I always say this, Dana White gave this guy a contract when he never, ever gives anybody a contract when they miss weight. And he gave him a contract for a reason. So
what is up to Effie in the house? He says top control is going to be tricky here for Durden. He likes Hadley. You got another guy on your side here. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's exciting when you have a prospect that looks like they're just that next level of a fighter, right? That next generation has all aspects of the game covered and still young, still 25 years old. So 26 years old, I should say. But yeah, I'm going to wait for this number to rise on Durden. I think now that we've talked it out a little bit more, I am partial. That's why I said I wouldn't even put a full unit on Durden. I'd put like 3/4 of it on him and then put another quarter on his decision prop, which I think is probably his most likely, maybe only way to win this fight aside from like a big bonk over the head early, right? So thinking about how the cardio is going to go in this matchup, I know Cody Durden probably going to win round 1 at a high clip if he can get this fight to the mat, but he's probably going to fade as the fight goes on in round 3. Sometimes he's clinging for life, you know, trying to breathe. If Jake Hadley can keep on the feet in that round and start piecing up his body the way you mentioned, those uppercuts to the ribs, you know, that could really make him even more gassed out as that round starts. So, yeah, thinking about how this match is going to play out, I think it is Jake Hadley either inside the distance or by decision. I think it's Durden by decision here. So I'll keep an eye out for the props, but on opposite sides of this one for now. But I like your faith in this one. You got a good number on Hadley. It is taken off. It's all the way past -200 at this point. So, yeah, if you're like me on that Durden side, we might want to wait until as long as we can, man, to keep on piecing this up nickel by nickel. It's already at +175s for Cody Durden here. So really fun fight up next. That's kind of a similar matchup, not a similar matchup in some ways, but it's a fight where, you know, we got Damon Jackson taking on Billy Q at 145. Damon Jackson wants to kind of play that game plan of Cody Durden, right? Just be the blanket, get this fight down to the mat, and wear out his opponent on the ground. Whereas Billy Q, big striking advantage here, and he's got cardio for days, uses that as one of his weapons in the fight. Kick off this one for me, Narco. It's a really fun one. Anytime Billy Q fights, I'm all eyes on the fight. Minus 175 Billy Q, plus 150 Damon Jackson. Which side of this one are you on?
Yeah, I looked at this one early and probably should have pulled the trigger because I liked Billy Q a little early, but the line, it hasn't moved that much, to be honest. It's still minus 175, 180 range. Yeah. So I could bet him if I want him. But I'm gonna attack it on a prop end here. Here's the thing: Damon Jackson historically slows down. Like, he just slows down big in his fights, and you could see it in a couple of his fights. One to be exact is Argueta fight, right? He slows down in third, and Argueta is up a weight class on very short notice there. He should not be the one that has cardio in round 3 there, and somehow he had better cardio there. There's other fights that you watch, and he tends to slow down, come round 3, and that's a very big red flag when you're facing Billy Quarantillo, because he keeps coming, man, and he has an insane gas tank. He's cashed, I think 2 or 3 times for me on round 2, round 3 props, and this guy is just a machine when it comes to cardio. And does he hit hard? No, I don't think he hits very hard. Does he have the best BJJ? No, he doesn't have the best, but he has cardio for days. He's got durability, and he's going to keep on coming, and he's going to keep in your face until you break. And a lot of the guys have broken. And so I think Damon Jackson probably breaks here, man, to be honest. Damon Jackson get him down, and he's very tricky on the ground, but Billy Quarantillo is a black belt himself down there. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he's ever been submitted in – how many fights does he have? 22 fights. So is Damon Jackson going to be the first one to submit him? It has to be early. I'll tell you that. But if not, I think he eventually breaks him.
Yeah, and breaking would not be out of the realm of something that's historically happened to Mr. Damon Jackson. He's been finished quite a few times, 4 times by knockout, 1 time by sub. I think that might have even been like a club and sub situation back in his first stint in the UFC as well. And he was subbed 1 other time as well, and that was a no contested bout. So he's been finished, what am I counting? 6 times out of his 6 losses, right? So, yeah, I mean, probably not out of the realm of possibility Billy Q could swarm on this guy late. Yeah, you hit all the points that I wanted to bring up, right? Against Daniel Argueta, a guy who was there at very short notice. And, yeah, we could see Damon Jackson, a big favorite in that matchup, and everybody who had him parlayed up was just sweating as he kind of looked ill at ease on the feet, just searching for a desperate takedown to hold position in round 3. Billy Q at that point, I think his takedown defense could probably hold up. Early round 1, Damon Jackson probably could win this at a higher clip, but as it goes on, I think Billy Q makes things very dangerous for guys in the clinch. He can kind of dig underhooks on guys who are tired, just shove knees into their ribs and circle back off and box them at range. So I am on the Billy Q side. I just don't know how much I trust him at this number, Narco.
I agree with you.
Because could we not see Damon Jackson get around 1 at a high clip?
I was thinking more we wait. I think you wait here. Maybe if you don't have live betting, that's, it's fucked up. But I think maybe a live bet here on Billy Q, depending on how round 1 goes,
First off, I got to cut you off here. And how dare you suggest live betting?
Yeah.
I gotta make money.
Yeah. I have to be right on all my pre-flop bets. I can never be wrong and make money live betting. Yeah,
that was legendary, by the way. That was legendary.
Yeah. But yeah, I think a live bet spot here on Billy Q might be a little better because we do know Damon Jackson's extremely dangerous early. But here, I don't know if you knew this, but last fight out, when he got finished, he got knocked out by Ige. He was fighting with a torn pec, he said. How the hell can you fight? A torn pec is a very bad injury.
Yeah, it depends how bad. I couldn't imagine fighting with one. But
I guess he said it was partially torn, but still, it's got to be very painful.
No, it sucks. The pain goes away. I've torn mine 3 times.
Yeah, so
Not
The
fully
thing is,
off the
fight
bone,
with
but
that,
yeah.
like the thing is, like you need strength, like especially in the grappling. Like, how do you grapple with a torn pec? You know?
Yeah, eventually your body adapts to it. Like if like right away the pain sucks, but after like a month or two, if you don't repair it, you just learn to the other muscles take over and you're good to go.
Yeah. So he said he fought with a torn pec. You know, now he said it's 100% healed. I don't know. You know, the other thing is there's some red flags. Like he just opened his own gym. It looks like he's training in his own gym. He's now no longer at Fortis. It looks like he opened up MMA Fortis Lakeside or something. So
okay,
I have no idea how serious this guy is with MMA at this point, but yeah, I still like Billy Q here, to be honest. At the end of the day, like the cardio is massive edge here.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page this one. We like Billy Q, but trusting him as a medium to moderate, favorite here is just you want to back this guy at closer to dog odds or get that after he gets held down in round one. Live bet it the way that Narco is saying, I think is a good strategy. Billy Q is a guy who, and there's somebody else in this card further on the main who's a comeback fighter as well. Somebody else I don't like to back it, chalk odds. So not really good to bet that pre-flop. A guy is probably going to drop round one and already be down 1/3 of the fight, and you have minus number on him. So I do like Billy Q though. The round 2, round 3 props when they open up another books, I'll be taking a look at. But we can move on to a very exciting fight at 170. This is one of the better fights of the entire card. Jeremiah Wells taking on Carlston Harris. It's just such a fun fight, because Carlston Harris and Jeremiah Wells share a lot of attributes. I think they're both very explosive finishers. We've seen them grapple a bit. We've seen them strike effectively a bit. But, just the size at 170, they just have totally different physiques, right? So it's kind of cool to see the 6-foot-tall Carlston Harris taking on more of a short, compact, like 5'8", 5'9" Jeremiah Wells, and both 36 years old. So it's now or never to really make an impact here. But I think they still have some fun fights up their sleeve in their UFC career. Carlston Harris, I would probably favor on the feet for a prolonged period of time. But Jeremiah Wells has that finishing power early. Is as explosive as anybody at the weight class. We saw him knock out and knock off the head of Court McGee a couple fights ago. So it's just the in-betweens, like the spaces, the minute winning, I think would go to Carlston Harris if this stayed striking. And I think this will stay striking for the majority of the fight. If somebody were to get a takedown here, it would either be Carlston Harris in the later parts of the fight or Jeremiah Wells just muscling through and exploding through double legs early, I would say. But how do you think about the wrestling in this matchup, Narco? Because I think it will just kind of nullify itself and they might strike it out.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Wells can get takedowns. He's just so fucking powerful. Like when he wants and he explodes forward for a double leg, you're probably going to go down. But I don't think he holds this dude down. Like this guy is very long. Like what? I also think he's wiry strong, to be honest. Like I think he's actually strong himself, because when you watch him going up against Rakhmonov in that fight, there's 2 times where Rakhmonov has him off his feet and he has like one fucking whizzer and he couldn't take him down. Rakhmonov could not take him down 2 different times. And he's pretty strong himself. I could tell, like, he's that wiry, strong type of guy, right? So this fight is violence, man. It's just the styles clash. They're both very hittable. They both have a lot of power in their hands. I think they're both a little bit chinny. I don't want to say chinny, but they're not chinny, but they get hurt a lot in their fights. And they're both defensive liabilities, man. Like when they're swinging, their head is up in the air. They're there to be bonked, and they both hit very damn hard. So whether it be on the ground where both guys actually have good BJJ or standing, I think this fight finishes, man. Like I don't want to pick a side because I think both guys can get finished here. But if I have to pick a side, I probably lean a little bit on the Wells side just because I think he has more explosion, more of the takedown ability. But at the end of the day, I think one of these guys is going to die in this cage. So I just don't know who it is.
Yeah, this line has really corrected itself, hasn't it? Looking at opened up around like the plus 180 mark for Harris, hung out around plus 160 to plus 150. As I was taping it, it was around, I saw plus 150, plus 140 over the weekend. Now it's come all the way down, even on BetOnline, and we're looking at plus 107 Carlston Harris, minus 127 Jeremiah Wells. So this was a spot where in my notes and in my breakdown, I picked Carlston Harris. Like I said, I think over a prolonged fight, if we see one, I see Harris as a guy who could get it done by decision. I could see him keep it on the feet, threaten with those front strokes, and still have the physicality to just throw some higher output here, potentially land that knockout blow himself. But I was more excited at that big plus number on him. I thought the line was way off. This is closer to a 50-50 fight, and we're getting that now in the line. So I could see either side of this. I like what you said, looking at the side of violence here. Fight doesn't go is kind of pricey, though, right? We're looking at what, minus 185, minus 190 for the under 2.5?
Fight doesn't go was minus 200.
Okay.
I think it should be minus 300, to be honest, in this type of fight. I really think this ends at a very, very high clip. I could be wrong. But I think styles makes fights, and these two guys, I don't know, man. I feel a car crash is going to happen.
Right. Yeah, both guys, the few losses, Carlston's been knocked out a couple of times. One of those is by Shavkat, no shame there. Jeremiah Wells has not been knocked out or submitted yet, but we saw him get dropped several times in his last fight against Matt Semmelsberger, who seems to have a real knack for knocking people down but not finishing the job. So, we'll see. I think maybe the writing's in the wall for that one. Minus 175 on BetOnline for the under 2.5 in this spot. That would be the way that I would lean on this one now that big plus money on Harris is gone. But I'll pick Harris here. My guy Narco is on Wells, I think, but we both expect there to be violence in this one, so that's where we agree. But we do have a very fun fight up next as well. This is a fight, again, where it's like the line kind of makes me want to pick the underdog in this one too. A bantamweight bout between Raoni Barcelos and Kyler Phillips. Raoni Barcelos was supposed to fight Miles Johns recently, and that fight got called off. Kyler Phillips in here was, did he have an opponent already? Or is this Said Nurmagomedov withdrew. So now we have these two squaring off. And it's been a while since we've seen Kyler Phillips. This guy was a pretty athletic and well-rounded fighter, just like Raoni Barcelos, but a younger version of him to some extent, not as skilled in all of the areas of the game like Barcelos, high-level wrestler, black belt, very advanced striker. Kyler Phillips, high-output striker, very fast in-and-out movement. And he's decent on the mat as well. And the last time we saw him was back in February of 2022. So over a year and a half ago at this point, taking out Marcelo Rojo by round 3. I think you got that mounted triangle and then an armbar extended out for the victory there. So Phillips, you got to remind me, Narco. I know, was there some injury that happened? And then I know he had a slight USADA suspension, right?
No injury. He popped for Osborne, which
that's like a 6-month suspension, right?
Yeah, I don't know how long it was, but it helps you. I know it helps you with cardio. It's the same thing that Sean O'Malley got popped for. They are from the same gym.
It's very, very weak. It's something that guys like to use because it clears very fast.
Isn't it? But it's for cardio, correct?
Not really. It's just
Really?
it's like a weak androgenic steroid. So it's something that doesn't have a whole lot of like side effects to it, and it clears your system really quickly. So it could help you with cardio. It could help you, but more often than not, it's a weight class sport, so you want to fill out your weight class. So that does have the ability to add lead muscle mass to you, but it's very, very weak. And coming off of that specific compound, it's not going to have like the suppression that you would get from coming off of like testosterone or something. It's just a super weak oral steroid. So coming off of that, I wouldn't expect him to have that much of a diminished effect or look to him.
Yeah, so like I kind of researched it because I'm like, what is this Osborne? Because I never really looked into something like that. And from the articles that I read, everything's said about vascularity, cardio. They say it helps you with cardio. Now, because I read that and I look at Phillips' style, man, his style is literally insane. Like he's bouncing on his toes the whole fucking fight. He's jumping in and out with these huge movements, right? Huge elbows, spinning shit. He's grappling. Like he's a very, very like jumpy, high-paced fighter.
Yeah.
And then I see he got popped for Osborne. And then I look it up and it says, oh, vascularity, fucking cardio improvement. And I'm like, what the fuck? Now,
yeah, it's something that a lot of guys use, and they're going to use some sort of oral, usually on top of something else that they're using as well.
And you know what's funny, Patrick?
It's simply for lean mass. I wanted to play him.
I wanted to play him because I kind of think Hani is a little bit shot now at this point. But when I saw that shit, I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm going to play this guy, because I look at all this shit and it kind of like adds up, you know. This guy's great cardio. He's jumping in and out like fucking crazy. And now he gets popped for something that helps you with this shit. And I'm like, I want nothing to do with this guy, because I don't know how he's going to look. Maybe he looks fantastic still. I'm not saying that it put him over the top, but how I'm going to play this, I'm taking the under, dude. I think both guys hit hard. I think both guys throw with a ton of power. And I think both guys are very dangerous on the ground. So I'm going to fucking go with the under here. It's big plus money. It was like plus 155. I don't know. You watch Kyler Phillips fights, and like the Paiva fight, like he gets dropped. He fucking drops Paiva. It's like an insane fight. You know what I'm saying? And you watch some of Barcelos's fights that go to decision. They're also insane fights. You know, the Valiev fight, the fucking Henry fight, even the Taha fight. They're like insane dropping this and that. So if you're going to give me plus 155 on these two guys, and one guy to me appears to be a little shot at this point in Hani Barcelos, I'm going to take plus 155 on the under.
I like that spot a lot. I did eye that one up. And Hani Barcelos, it's like, how many times we're going to say this guy's got such a great skill set in all areas, like he's worth the money line. Like that all is true, but the guy doesn't wrestle as much as I really want him to. Like he never really pivots off that striking game, even when it's going poorly for him, until it's far too late in the fight. Now, if this does get down to round 3 and these guys are still kicking, and Kyler Phillips has wasted all of his energy in round 1 and round 2 with that energy exhaustive movement style that you're talking about, then I could see Hani Barcelos maybe taking over in the late round and making it competitive. But I don't know, man. I think I'm done trusting Hani Barcelos at this point. You know, he's 36 years old. He's his better days are behind him. He's now lost 3 out of his last 4 fights. So yeah, I'm on the Kyler Phillips side just as an upside, but I don't know if I can trust him coming back after just a long layoff in general. I need this guy to more pace out his cardio than just being a fast starter round 1 and then dropping off in rounds 2 and 3 here. So yeah, I like that. I like that under in this spot. I mean, how much of that do you think was Umar Nurmagomedov's power and just talent, and how much of that do you think was kind of the fading chin of Hani Barcelos? Any opinion on that, or is it hard to tell?
So that's the thing, though. That's the main thing why I think he's shot. It's because Nurmagomedov doesn't have any power in his hands. The guy just, all of his knockouts or whatever, I don't think he even has. Maybe he has 1 knockout in his career prior to this, right? Mm-hmm. All of his finishes are submissions. Like if he would have knocked him out with a head kick, I would have said, all right, it's a head kick. This guy is fucking really good with his kicks. Right. But his hands are not all that good. He hasn't shown he has a lot of power in his hands. And all of a sudden he gives him this left hook where he doesn't see it. And he absolutely floors him like he's out cold, man. And his head bounces off the canvas. And the thing is, like, for a guy like Hani, who's never been knocked out, and now all of a sudden you're knocked out at 36 years old, and your head bounces off the canvas like that. Like, I don't know, man. I don't think it's a good thing. I'll say that. So that's part of the reason why I think he's shot.
Well, yeah, just me is looking at this kind of the same way. I've just kind of had the epiphany of maybe instead of picking a side, maybe the under in this spot at plus money might be a good spot here as well. But yeah, give me Kyler Phillips as a pick here. But shoot, man, maybe you're right. Maybe he is on some stronger stuff than I thought he was. Maybe he looks all flabby like post testosterone Vitor on the scales. But I think he's going to look just fine at his age. That stuff he's on it's just they might have a better test for it now, because every time the years pass and these guys are on oral steroids, the detection window we get in the lab gets just a little bit better every time, and all it takes is guys to pop before the camps have to say, okay, we have to stop taking this stuff, another week before we thought we had to. So that happens from time to time as well. But siding on violence for this one as well. We can move on to a very exciting match at lightweight between Ignacio Bahamondes and Ludovic Klein. Pretty good strikers delight in this one. 2 kickboxers going at it. We've got the young man from Chile in Ignacio Bahamondes, still 25 years old, but a massive 6'3" at this weight class, taking on Ludovic Klein, who's a former featherweight, moved up now in his last bout against Jai Herbert and looked decent at 155. I know he fought Mason Jones as well and beat him. An unfortunate, almost a loss against Jai Herbert, who was kind of giving him that taste of like fighting a taller guy. And he kind of struggled in that matchup, Narco. So that was just earlier this year. Jai Herbert got that point deduction in round 3, so it ended up being a draw. But would have been a loss for Ludovic Klein, who's resorted more to his wrestling, resorted more to some cage stalling tactics in some of his bouts. And that explosive striking that I saw when he was in Octagon and some of the Czech promotions overseas, not really seeing that all too much used in the UFC, aside from that, was that Shane Young knockout? And did he have one more, or was that his only knockout in the UFC so far? I think that might have been it.
I think that's it in the UFC. I don't think he's had another knockout.
No, he had some moments. He had some moments against Mason.
Yeah,
Jones,
he hurt Devontae Smith. I think he might have hurt Mason Jones as well. I don't remember, but yeah, that's his only knockout in the UFC.
Yeah, I thought this guy would be like a knockout artist when he was coming into the UFC. He looks incredibly well-rounded and talented coming in, but now a little bit stale and now up a weight class too. So physically he looks good, but so does Ignacio Bahamondes, man, at 6'3" and a super long reach here. I think his kicks are going to be far more effective after dropping that debut at a young age to John McDessie. He's now been on a 3-fight winning streak. Beautiful spinning heel kick knockout over Roosevelt Roberts. And now coming in here and getting the third round submission over Zhu Rong and having a nice, safe decision win against Trey Ogden as well. And so far, his takedown defenses look good as well. So if Ludovic Klein tries to pivot to that part of his game, I think he might be forced to keep it standing and just get outpointed, if not knocked out. Do you have any more faith in Ludovic Klein than I do at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a closer fight than this line indicates, to be fair. Because like Ludovic Klein really doesn't get blown out of the waters. I mean, Nate Landwehr, I guess, kind of like beat him up pretty good with the cardio, and Pisano might have, I mean, it was a closer fight. It wasn't like a complete blowout. The thing is, Bahamondes never really faced southpaws, and this is his first southpaw, I think, in the UFC. I watched one fight regionally where he fought a southpaw, Becerra, where he lost. And he kind of is not very good defensively against the left hand coming from the southpaw. So that is something that I noted in my notes. I didn't like seeing that from Bahamondes because he constantly got clipped with the left hand. And we know Klein can crack with the left hand. The thing is, I do think Bahamondes is super durable. I think he has a very, very good chin. I don't think Klein can knock him out, to be honest, unless it's like some type of head kick. And to get your fucking leg all the way up there at 6'3" is not going to be easy. But, I mean, he might wrestle here a little. Klein might. But Bahamondes is kind of dangerous with his front chokes, man. Like, I don't like the idea of Klein wrestling because I do think he might get subbed if he decides to put his head in the wrong area. But striking-wise, like, Bahamondes has the length. He has the volume. But the cleaner striker, to be honest, is Klein. And I think the guy with a little bit more pop is Klein as well. So I kind of feel like it's going to be a little closer than the line indicates. But I think the cardio, the durability, the length eventually takes over for Bahamondes here.
Klein seems a little bit hot or cold to me as well. Sometimes he looks like a killer, like I mentioned, and sometimes he looks a little bit flat, like against Jai Herbert. So I feel like do you kind of get that sense? Like some fights he's really turned on and his technical striking looks good, looks explosive, and then some fights not so much.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Jai Herbert fight, and I don't remember exactly which round. I think he won round 1, but then he lost round 2 and 3, I believe, and then obviously there was a point taken from Herbert in that fight. That's why I made it a draw. Otherwise, Herbert wins that fight.
Right. Yeah, because Herbert managed to get him down and hold him for a while. I think in the later part of that fight, I think it was in round 3 itself. It was like half of that round was Jai Herbert in control, and then half of round 1 was Ludovic Klein in control. So yeah, I think you're right in the timing of that one. But Yeah, it could be a lot closer. What are we looking at now? We're looking at minus 225 for Ignacio Bahamondes, plus 190 for Ludovic Klein. Yeah, that starts to seem off to me at this point. Bahamondes was as low as minus 175 to minus 190 for much of the week, and now it's started to take off a little bit. So, yeah, when you have the younger guy, the guy he's on a nice win streak now, the height and the reach, I think people get excited. But yeah, this is starting to swing where I think it is. Yeah, if you're on the early favorite or pass or this one, but as far as like the overs unders, I think the range itself in this fight might actually lead them to be drug out to a decision. Don't you think? Like, I don't know if they're going to get in a big firefight here. What do you think about the over under? Any thoughts? On mute, dude.
I think Klein is pretty durable. I think both guys are durable. The only issue I have is I do think Klein slows down, and Bahamondes throws a ton of volume, and he keeps coming forward. So it's a little bit of a concern for the under, like in case Bahamondes eventually wears him down, because he keeps coming.
Yeah. Just 2 cents saying doesn't wear. Yeah, that McDessie fight was he was wearing a crimson mask in that one, if I remember correctly. So yeah, something to think about. But yeah, I think it is Bahamondes in this one, but the line has gotten a little bit crazy. I wouldn't go too much past this minus 200 mark. But on the same side of that one, Ignacio's size and youth and volume down the stretch. But we move on to a very exciting fight up next, Narco. This is a head scratcher of a fight, probably my least confident pick on the card. Light heavyweight bout between Tanner Boser as he welcomes back Alexa Camur. Now, Alexa Camur, one of these guys who has been on like a 2-year-long layoff now. We haven't seen him now. He is younger, but he was dealing with like some sort of a nerve issue. I saw him interviewed on the All-Star talking about that issue and his older nerve. He was getting some, I think he said some atrophy like in his lower extremities as well. Like it was that bad. So at 27 years old, 26 years old, that's kind of a bad sign, but shit happens in the combat sports game. But he's 6-2, very good boxer. He's got a boxing background, and really his jab is nice, good extension on it. But his cardio looks atrocious, dude. Like Alexa Camur, when he was facing Nikolai Negumereanu the last time we saw him, Nikolai's notoriously durable. So even though Camur was destroying him in round 1, he was gassing out as Nikolai was zombieing him down. So ended up losing that fight by a split decision. I think he deserved to lose that fight. Just was not looking very good body language wise. And you could see if that was extended one more round, he probably would have gotten taken out just from exhaustion. Tanner Boser made his light heavyweight debut last time against Ian Kuntalaba and got knocked out pretty quickly against the cage by, I think he got dropped by a big right hand or something like that. And then pretty much just held against the cage and battered till the ref stopped it. But a ton more experience professionally for Tanner Boser, like triple the amount of pro experience. And in the Canadian regionals, Boser was more of a point fighting heavyweight, So he comes in the UFC, had some trouble against some grapplers lately, obviously a little bit rounder on the midsection, and he's now cut down and looked great at 205 physically. But Ian Kuntalaba can pull that move in round 1 over a lot of guys, which I love about Ian Kuntalaba. I'm not big on his skill set, but I do like how crazy that guy is in round 1. So in this spot, it's like I got to pick Boser because I know what I've seen from him. He can throw heavy leg kicks. He can at least last 3 rounds. And have a little bit of power just as the bigger guy here. Alexa Camur, though, he has all of the potential, all of the what ifs. Coming back at 27, I think the kid could have kind of grown into himself at 205, taken his time off, probably gotten some good training in regardless of that operation he had. He's training at Strong Style, which is where Stipe trains, and that's a really underrated strength and conditioning camp as well. So if that guy's not getting better cardio at that gym, I don't think it's ever going to happen. So give me Tanner Boser at very low confidence here, but Camur could be a live dog if he just looks like a new person here. We're looking at minus 145 Boser, plus 125 Camur. What do you like about either of these guys, Narco?
I don't like anything. I like Camur's boxing. He's a 3-time Golden Glove boxer. He's got really, really good boxing. And I think he throws it with a ton of power, to be honest. Like, Negumereanu is just like a fucking blockhead, man. Like, he cracked him with some huge shots in that fight. And Negumereanu just kept walking forward. He's like, F you, keep hitting me, no problem. And, he kept coming forward. Now, Boser, I think there's a huge red flag on Boser, to be honest. And I think people are overlooking this red flag is the fact that Boser competed at heavyweight for a long time. He was a heavyweight. He's been getting cracked by heavyweights, and no one's ever knocked him out until really, really early in his career. He's fought some big hitters. Heavyweights, it's one bonk for the most part, right? Like everybody hits pretty hard at heavyweight, and he took shots really well at heavyweight. The first fight back, Patrick, at 205, he gets knocked out. Now, if there's anything I know about boxing and your chin, it's the fact that when you cut weight and it's not a good weight cut for you, the first thing that goes is your chin and your cardio. And this guy got knocked out in his first 205 fight. What am I going to make out of that? I have no fucking idea. But I know Quarantillo hits pretty hard, but you can't tell me he hits harder than these heavyweights that have been cracking him. And Tanner Boser seems to be fine eating shots at heavyweight. Now all of a sudden he doesn't seem fine eating shots at 205, right?
Right.
And I just said Camur, I think, hits very hard. I think he hits just as hard as Quarantillo, if not harder. So I don't know, man. I don't want nothing to do with this fight. The one guy, Camur, I listened to this interview. He's got 2 businesses. He got this ulnar nerve problem that he fixed. But he's also been out forever. I don't think that ulnar nerve kept him out for, 2+ years when you're that young too. He's a young guy. So it was more to do, I think, than his businesses are making money, because he said they're making money and he has 2 partners. And I honestly don't know how committed this guy is to MMA at this point, to be honest. So, 27 years old, been out for 2+ years. The other side is a huge question mark, because he turned off his social medias. He turned off his Instagram, his Twitter. He said, I want nothing to do with social media. Then at the end of his interview, he motherfucks all of his sponsors. He says, F you this, F you that, F you that. My only real sponsor is Venom, because I guess they didn't pay him. This guy's head is all over the place in Tanner Boser. So I'm checked out, my friend. I want nothing to do with this fight.
Yeah, I'm the same way. How bad would you feel if you had trusted one of these guys and they dropped the ball? You would not be surprised at all. You could only have yourself to blame. Look in the mirror, saying,
"Yeah." And Mandel makes a good point.
Yeah.
Mandel says he's a Twitch streamer. Yeah, he's a gamer.
Okay.
One of his companies is actually one of those software gaming companies. That's what he owns. So there you go.
All right. So we got one guy in Boser who's just a low fight IQ, chinny, kind of sloppy bum. We got Alexa Camur, who's a nerd coming off of just playing with computers for 2 years. Can't even feel his hands. He games so much. Yeah, all right. I don't think we can trust either guy here. I'm with my guy, Zach Johnson, passing on this one. Yeah, playing the over if you dare. I think we're missing a lot of data on Alexa Camur here. But I wouldn't be surprised if he came in here and chinned Tanner Boser the way that we saw him get chinned in round 1 against Ian Quarantillo.
Yeah.
You mentioned he got knocked out one other time. That was to former UFC fighter Tim Hag back in Canada. One of Tim Hag's last fights before he retired. He knocked out Tanner Boser in 6 seconds.
Yeah, what's Camur KO1? Maybe I play that. Maybe I play something. Maybe that's my Lambo play. I don't even know what my Lambo play is on this fight, but that might be it. That might be, guys.
Yeah, round 1 Camur or the draw would potentially be it here, so. All right, we can move on. I think we analyzed that pretty good. I'm going Boser as a pick just solely because I've seen him fight in the UFC several times here. He's a bigger guy. Camur, I have no idea what this guy's upside is going to be, but his cardio looks pretty atrocious. But we move on to a featherweight bout between Gavin Tucker, who's also Canadian and also coming off of a long layoff. He's taking on the Brazilian Diego Lopes, who makes his second walk to the cage after impressing as a big underdog in that performance against Movsar Evloev recently, where he had some locked-in submissions in round 1, comes back in round 3, and almost extends the leg off of Movsar Evloev. So as a big underdog, he's one of these guys who shocked all of us and made some memorable moments, almost getting the victory there. But, I kind of expected him to be a sizable favorite over Gavin Tucker, and we're starting to get that line going a little bit more now. It's minus 170 to minus 180 for Diego Lopes. Gavin Tucker, about a plus 150 underdog here. And Gavin Tucker's a good wrestler. His striking is pretty high output. It's okay. Diego Lopes, I like his striking, but defensively, not very much to be had there. You know, I mean, he gets hit quite a bit in return, can kind of bait people in to strike back at him, and then he'll level change, look for the takedown off the cage, and then start working the BJJ. But he's as equally comfortable off of his back, too, which against a wrestler and Gavin Tucker, that's a bit of a scary proposition. As far as the line goes, I'd like it to be closer just because I think that Diego Lopes, you know, we saw him lose in the Contender Series to Brito. We saw him lose pretty handily against Movsar Evloev outside of a few moments. And now are we not sort of overrating him in a loss here and forgetting about Gavin Tucker? Gavin Tucker is a decent talent, you know, before that long layoff, but it's just he's older now. So what do you like about Diego Lopes coming into this fight?
Well, initially before taping, I thought I was going to play Tucker for sure. I'm like, well, why is Tucker a dog to this guy? Like, I think this is an overreaction because this guy did well against Evloev on short notice. You know, this is, to me, I thought, oh, this is recency bias. People are like, oh, fuck, you know, he almost submitted Evloev, who's a top 10 guy, really, really good fighter. And now all of a sudden, you know, this guy's a favorite against Gavin Tucker, who's been in the UFC before. But when I went back and taped, honestly, I actually like what I see from Lopes on tape. Super dangerous on the ground. Like, we saw it not only in that fight, I've seen it in every single one of his fights. Like, he's just extremely dangerous on the ground, right? But on the feet, I think defensively he's bad. Like you said, very bad. But his chin is absolutely, I mean, it's gold. His chin is absolutely gold. He got hit by Brito flush many times. And I think Brito is a huge power puncher. And he took him like nothing. Like, he didn't even get rocked. And the other thing is, I think he actually has power in his own hands. He swings back actually pretty hard. I actually think if you go back and watch Evloev fight, he hurt Evloev on the feet. I think twice. So he throws pretty hard. And his BJJ game is like really, really good. Like, he's extremely dangerous off his back, extremely dangerous on top. How does Tucker win this fight? Like, he's a lot shorter. He is going to be at a significant disadvantage when it comes to reach and height. The other problem is 2.5-year layoff is one thing for a guy that's 27, like Camur.
Right.
2.5-year layoff is another thing for a guy that's 37 years old in Gavin Tucker, right? Coming off a terrible knockout. Like, I mean, he got knocked out cold.
Yeah. And not to mention, it's been a long time since we've seen Gavin Tucker. And when we did see him in the past, what was that 20 seconds, that knockout against Dan Ige?
Yeah. And the other thing, Patrick, is he's been hurt in other fights. I don't think his chin is very good. And I just don't know where he wins this fight. Like, I know he's the better technical fighter, but cardio, youth, BJJ, volume, everything is on Lopes' side, in my opinion. So I think he might honestly find the finish here. Like, Gavin Tucker slows down as well in round 3s. And this dude Lopes is cardio. You know, for a guy that hunts submissions, and all of those submissions against Evloev were like power subs, right? Going for a knee bar is using a lot of fucking strength, you know, in round 3 at the end of the fight. Putting up triangles is a lot of strength in your legs. You know, throwing up arm bars and, you know, everything he's throwing up is a lot of energy, and he's still fucking good in the 3rd round. So I don't know. I think Tucker, he's in trouble in this fight, in my opinion, and it has nothing to do with what Lopes did against Evloev. It's everything to do before that. I think he's just the type of fighter that's a bad matchup for Gavin Tucker.
Yeah, I like what Alex Zaragoza is saying here. Lopes in 2 or 3 by TKO, or could get a sub. I was looking at hopefully when some of these like DraftKings and FanDuel open up, they're inside the distance props on Diego Lopes playing that. I fall exactly where you timeline wise. You know, I was looking at, okay, Diego Lopes. I know people are going to remember this guy from almost finishing that fight against Movsar Evloev as a big underdog. And who are they going to place him in front of? Gavin Tucker. Okay, this is a guy who has been in the UFC before against some big competition, done decently well. And then you go back and you run the tape and you see how old he is and, the ass kickings he's taken, recently. So, and Diego Lopes, you're right. He's got power in his hands. If you watch him fight, like in the Lux Fight League, the guy can crack on the feet and then jump on submissions afterwards. I mean, he does everything with a purpose, which I love. He does everything with a fight intent, ending purpose, right? So I'd be looking to play him inside the distance here. I think he does spoil the party of Gavin Tucker's return. So, and the big size advantage does not hurt one bit either. So I'll be looking at Lopes inside the distance potentially here. The number on the money line, I don't know. I mean, I know people are able to get him at like minus 130, minus 140, wherever he was. So now I feel like I've missed out now that it's minus 180, So what do you think about that? Do you have anything on this fight at all?
Yeah, I'm gonna target this fight. I have Lopes money line. I have
gotcha.
Yeah, I have 2.25 units at minus 160 on Caesars.
Okay, great.
But I'm gonna target other things in this fight. I think this is a good fight to target for props.
Yeah, it looked like a possible underdog, but after running the tape, we both fell on the Lopes side. So that always tells you something when you're looking to play the other side and look at a guy who's overrated possibly in a loss, and you end up on his side. I think that says a lot. So glad we're lined up on there. Shout out to everybody in the live chat right now, all 45 of you. Thanks for hanging out on this Wednesday. Thank you, Narco, for returning to the show. It's always fun breaking down sketchy fight cards with you and finding ways to make money. We can move on to a very fun fight that has people divided at 205. We've got Dustin Jacoby taking on Kennedy and Nzechukwu in what could be a battle between two tall kickboxers at the weight class. Not sure if it's going to be anything more than that or if these guys just decide to keep it striking. But, of course, we saw Kennedy and Nzechukwu with a very beautiful standing guillotine against Devin Clark last time in round 2. In fact, the guy is just a comeback fighter, right? He usually drops round 1, a little slow to wake up into the bout, and then he just lumbers forward. And if you gas out, you're in trouble. If you try to finish him and fail to do that, you're in trouble. His clinch work is very strong. The guy is, what is he now? He's like 6'5", 6'6", with an 83-inch reach. So almost a 7-foot tall wingspan and getting better, right? And 3-fight winning streak, Carl Roberson, a nice wrestling performance there. Ground and pound. Ian Kuntalaba hit him with some knees in round 2. Devin Clark, again, hurt him on the feet and was able to get that standing guillotine in round 2. Dustin Jacoby, opposite story, right? He's coming off of back-to-back losses now for the first time in his recent career over Khalil Roundtree by a close decision. Azamat Murzakanov, a more decisive decision loss there in April. And it's just been these big moments. Dustin Jacoby's a very good minute winner, very technical kickboxer, obviously a former pro in Glory in between his 2 UFC stints. And his durability has held up over the years pretty good. His point fighting very good as well. Good out of both stances, jabs, leg kicks. I mean, the guy can really do it all technically with the kickboxing. It's just falling short in these big moments against Roundtree and Azamat Murzakanov, who dropped him now. So looking at Kennedy as a guy who doesn't have as many fight miles on the rise momentum-wise, and Dustin Jacoby a little bit stalled out. Maybe this is as high as he's going to get in the division. But still, I mean, Kennedy has been facing not a lot of guys who are keen to stand and strike with him. I think Jacoby's going to be right at home. So if you want to give me a side here, I got to take Dustin Jacoby. I just don't think I'm comfortable betting him at plus 140. Talk to me, Narco. Am I right to pick Jacoby in this spot in a striker's battle here, or do you like Nzechukwu?
No, I think you're right. I just feel like there's not enough meat on the bone, kind of like what you're saying on the Jacoby side. Like I wanted a little more. He's going to have Kennedy's going to have a little bit of a cardio edge here. He's the bigger guy. However, Jacoby's not a tiny guy himself. He's 6'3" himself. So when you look at Kennedy, he loses to Down Jung with an elbow. He's kind of fought smaller guys for the most part, outside of like earlier on Alberg and Marquez. But he lately, when you talk about Kutalaba, Clark, and Roberson, they're a little bit shorter on the shorter side. So Jacoby is 6'3". He's up there. He's a very good kickboxer. I hate his fight IQ, honestly. I think actually both guys kind of have questionable fight IQ. I would favor Kennedy. I think Kennedy uses a little bit better fight IQ than Jacoby does. Like Jacoby last time against Mirzakhanov, you could clearly see Mirzakhanov was tired in round 3, and Jacoby started landing on him. But what did he do? He went for a takedown in round 3. It's like, what are you doing, dude? Are you trying to finish this guy? You're down 2 rounds, and you're going for a fucking takedown like you have some BJJ skills to submit this guy?
I was screaming. I was screaming at that point. I was making a scene.
Yeah, I mean, his fight IQ is questionable, but I think, this guy was competitive, if not won the Khalil Roundtree fight. And I think Roundtree is much more dangerous on the feet than Kennedy is. And like in a 15-minute kickboxing fight, if this fight doesn't hit the ground, based on Kennedy grappling, probably favor Jacoby. I think he's the better kickboxer, right? But I can't trust him. And I said to myself this year in 2023, I'm not betting guys that I don't trust that have bad fight IQ. And I just saw it last time out. And I had Mirzakhanov, right? And I was sweating in round 3. I'm like, oh my God, this guy dominated. He's getting clipped now. He's tired. Jacoby might kill him in round 3. And then he goes for a takedown. I'm like, yes, Jacoby, go for a takedown, So it's a pass for me. I do favor Jacoby, but I'm not going to bet it.
Yeah, and talking about trying to refine your technique, refine your betting strategy, it's something I'm trying to do big time. As far as I used to play a lot of darts on a lot of money lines, which it's not bad if you're finding an edge. But there's a lot of times, like I said last week, Narco was the first time ever I had a reverse sweep against me because I had so little action. That doesn't happen so far because normally I have a ton of money lines with just a small action on all of them. So the odds of getting reverse swept and not ending up with anything, is very small. These days, I'm trying to refine things and just find the value. So a spot where normally I would always pull the trigger on Dustin Jacoby. If I find the pick I like and he's an underdog with any plus money, I'm pulling the trigger. This time I'm trying to be like you and maybe rein back a bit and see if, Jacoby can prove something to us moving forward, that he's still in the game. But I'm known to be really bad at picking Kennedy and Nzechukwu fights lately. I think I've gotten his past couple wrong. Devin Clark, as a strong wrestler, I thought he'd probably have something more for Kennedy. Ian Kuntalaba, even, I thought. I just think that Kennedy, again, he fools me with that round 1 slow starting style. I feel like fast starters can starch this guy early, but they never really get the job done except for Da Un Jung, who had the phantom elbow that still makes me laugh every time I watch that fight. So I don't know, man. We're on the same side of an underdog here, but we're not touching it for some reason. So I think Zach Johnson saying these crazy bursts of power from Kennedy, that does scare me too. You have that giant 6'6" knee come up to anybody's chin, and suddenly they're, curled up against the cage, and he just throws those slow punches at them until they fall over. So,
surprisingly on these guys, I'm 4-0. I've picked Jacoby against Mikal. I picked Mirzakhanov against Jacoby. And then on the opposite side, I've been right twice on Kennedy. But, I picked Kennedy against Devin, and I picked Da Un Jung versus Kennedy. And now I want nothing to do with this fight because I just think it's close. And I think the line's probably around right. And there's just no value for me here.
All right. Well, I guess, the only action my guy in the DMs, Johnny K. Picks, called me out earlier this afternoon. He wanted to go head-to-head. He's on Kennedy pretty big. He's a big Kennedy and Nzechukwu fanboy. Wants to have a shoey bet one-on-one. So I'm on the Jacoby side, brothers. So you want to bring that talk again? I'll drink beer out of a shoe if Jacoby doesn't get the job done. So that'll be the only action I have on this one. So if you're watching, Johnny, you can redeem that shoey if your guy wins, and hopefully you're there live to watch it. But we can move to the co-main event, which is at strawweight, women's 115, between Jessica Andrade and Tatiana Suarez. Former champion at the weight class, Jessica Andrade, once upon a time, is now on back-to-back losses, both by finish. The submission loss to Erin Blanchfield this year, and of course the knockout loss in May at the hands of Yan Xiaonan in round 1. Tatiana Suarez still undefeated at 9-0, very good freestyle wrestling international champion, competitive BJJ background. Not sure if she has the striking to contend with Andrade at this point, but so far she's taken down every single one of her UFC opponents, so it doesn't really matter all that much up to this point. But she's returning off after that long layoff now to 115. She faced Montana De La Rosa a couple months ago, got that round 2 guillotine, but that was at 125. She was trying to let her body reacclimate to fighting again after having neck injuries and some other things going on. Now she's making that further weight cut down to 115. So stylistically, I mean, it looks like a pretty cut and dry matchup, but looking at the money line, we're looking at minus 375 for Tatiana Suarez, plus 310 for Jessica Andrade. I mean, Jessica Andrade is a girl who, just with her height, she has to kind of barrage her way into range. I think she's going to be taken down pretty quickly when she gets caught over swinging. Tatiana Suarez is so fast at diving on single legs, ramming her opponents against the cage and then taking them down from there, where she's a problem. I mean, at these odds, does a Jessica Andrade money line even pique your interest at this point? I know she has a ton of under 1.5 round finishes. That seems to be her path here, Narco.
Yeah, I just think it's such a bad matchup for her.
Yeah.
You know, I bet Blanchfield very big against her based on, first of all, she gets taken down. The way she gets up, it's like it's not changed. It hasn't changed on tape. She gives up her back. She gave up her back against Blanchfield, easily got submitted. And to be honest, Tatiana Suarez is probably a better grappler or submission grappler than Blanchfield is. So if you're going to give up your back, you're going to get subbed again. And who's the better wrestler? I think Suarez is the better wrestler than Blanchfield. So it's like her when I go back prior to her injury, man, her fucking wrestling is so damn good, man. It's like insanely good. And even there was some points where she was like falling off the back and she like cradles the girl and she doesn't fall off their back. She stays there. Then she puts hooks in and it's like, fuck, man, this girl is so good. And now she's with Patchy Mix and she's just leveling up like crazy with her grappling. And it's just a bad matchup, honestly, for Andrade. You know, she's coming back again fairly fast. Like she's been finished twice in a row in a matter of, 3 months. She got finished twice. And now she's right back in the cage 3 months later. And it's like, I guess it's going to be finish number 3 because Suarez's striking absolutely sucks. I see no improvement. I think her striking is god-awful. Don't get me wrong. I think Andrade, she can bonk her on the feet and maybe hurt her. But the minute this fight hits the ground, it's like, good night, Irene. Like, I just think she's going to sub her, man. I mean, Andrade she's a black belt, but defensively, she's probably a white belt. So,
right.
Yeah. I mean, I think Suarez runs through her on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, and even Jessica Andrade in the past, she's had other tools than just being a barraging striker early, right? Like she's able to bully in the clinch. She can sometimes get a slam, takedown, ground and pound, jump guillotine pretty strong here and there. But like a lot of that is off the table against Tatiana Suarez, right? So she's left to just have that early finishing ability where she has 11 round 1 stoppages, a lot more under 1.5 round stoppages. But after that, I really do think that most of this is going to swing in the favor of Suarez and probably at any point in the fight too. Suarez, like I said, you mentioned the wrestling prowess, and even if you want to measure that against other female fighters, Carla Esparza, finished her, the current champion at flyweight, finished Grasso. So it's now coming back after her first return after a long layoff. Now she's going to come back and have all of that confidence that she is undefeated 9-0. She does have title implications coming her way if she can steamroll her through Jessica Andrade. She's on a decline. So isn't it odd, though, that Suarez is a bit older than Jessica Andrade at this point, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is. The crazy thing to me is like where I see like, it's just, I don't know if you want to call it a red flag or whatever. It's like fucking Zhao Yunan knocks out no one. And she fucking knocked out Jessica Andrade. Like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't know if she's just like, this is the point where she's falling off a cliff, even though she is still super young. She's 31 years old. She's not old. But, like, getting knocked out by Zhao Yunan or whatever, that girl just doesn't have a lot of power. And she flatlined her. And it's like, I don't get it, but I think she gets finished here in the grappling. Like, Suarez just has no power, like none. Her striking is god awful.
Yeah, and I agree. And like I mentioned at the top, I mean, she's taken down literally every single opponent, so that hasn't come into play. But at some point in the future, maybe it will, maybe it won't. We'll see. I think you're right about Jessica Andrade being on a bit of a decline here. Just a lot of fight miles. Been in the league more than anybody else, since the beginning of the women's divisions back in 2013. So, these back-to-back finishes, these fast turnaround times. She's already fought 3 times in 2023. And aside from that beatdown over Lauren Murphy, it's not gone too well. So I think we do see an inside the distance finish from Tatiana Suarez, likely a submission. And I'm not even partial to what round. I think it could be any round of this fight. So give me Tatiana Suarez here. Moving on to the main event, which is in itself a short notice replacement, and Rob Font filling in for Umar Nurmagomedov. And this is, in effect, a catchweight bout at 140. Probably favors Corey Sandhagen, who's a really big bantamweight, just by his frame. He's 5'11". Rob Font will be a bit shorter. And Rob Font, always criminally underrated. I cashed on him last time as a sizable underdog against Adrian Yanez. But Rob Font is not facing a fellow boxer this time. He's facing a guy who has a very comprehensive striking game, a ton of weapons in this fight. And as we've seen recently, a guy who can mix up all aspects of the game. Throwing in takedowns like he did against Marlon Chito Vera. And not to play MMA math, Narco, but Corey Sandhagen, put a whooping on Marlon Chito Vera. And Marlon Chito Vera is a very dangerous man who was able to win moments over Rob Font and rearrange his face quite literally. So I think Corey Sandhagen in this spot is actually live to get a knockout. We've seen Rob Font take a lot of damage. That's kind of a common theme on this card, isn't it? Like we're talking about Jessica Andrade taking damage, cumulative damage over her career so far. Rob Font sort of in that same category. Even though he's making it to the scorecards with Jose Aldo, outstriking him, making it to the scorecards against Marlon Chito Vera, outstriking him by the numbers, he's losing these big moments and has gotten knocked down, I think, 2 or 3 times in both of those bouts pretty badly. So can Corey Sandhagen, draw him into a trap, draw him into a flying knee, slice up some elbows on his face? Just in 3 minutes of Rob Font's last fight against Yanez, even though he won by knockout, 3 minutes of that fight, and it looked like Rob Font was in a 3-round war, just from the look on his face, the lacerations, the swelling. If that's 3 minutes against Adrian Yanez and a win, how do you think a 3, 4, 5-round fight against Corey Sandhagen in a loss is going to look towards the end of that fight? I'm on Corey Sandhagen pretty big in this one. I think I'm just very confident in this guy to get it done. I might look at an inside the distance prop as well. How do you feel about this fight? Am I writing off Rob Font as a sizable underdog here? I know he is about plus 285 at this point. Corey Sandhagen minus 350.
Yeah, I mean, short notice is very bad. I mean, I know it's a catch weight here, and that's because Rob Font has historically had trouble making 35. Like he's had some weight misses and some terrible weight cuts. That might help a little at 140, but this is still short notice, right? It's still 5 rounds. And, at this point, Rob Font is 36 years old. You mentioned, like, I bet against him last time, and I'll be the first one to say it. I had a pretty big bet on Yanez, and I was wrong because I did think his chin was gone, to be honest. I thought Yanez is going to tag him a couple of times, probably knock him out, right? Because it does seem like his chin is deteriorating after being knocked down 5 times in 2 fights, right? Now he's in a 5-round fight against the guy that keeps coming. He has a variety of ways to hit you, flying knees, head kicks. Kind of similar to Marlon Vera, right? Marlon Vera kept head kicking this guy and knocking him down and front kick and all the things that Sandhagen can do. But Sandhagen also has hands. He's got very good hands. And he's got cardio for days, similar to Vera. It's like they're basically putting a more dangerous, multifaceted Marlon Vera in front of Rob Font again. Literally. I mean, this is putting Marlon Vera in front of him, but a way better Marlon Vera version, right? A guy that can grapple, a guy that can strike with his hands. Marlon Vera really doesn't have hands. It's mostly kicks. Sandhagen has hands. So it's like, what a fucking terrible matchup. It's 5 rounds again. It's short notice. I don't know, man. He's gonna finish him. In my opinion, this is not going 5 rounds. Like, if Rob Font survives, props to him. He's a tough guy. I'll give him that. He's a very, very tough guy. But when you watch Marlon Vera fight, like, how does this ref not stop that fight, right? Like, what are you doing, dude? You're going to get this guy killed in the ring? Like, the fight's supposed to be stopped, you know?
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing that they let that fight go on. And it's like, I think come Saturday, we're going to see a rerun of that, but he's going to get finished this time. And who knows? It could be a club and sub. I don't know how he's going to finish him, but I think he's going to get finished in this fight. And it's one of those things where I think it's a very, very, very bad matchup for Rob Font here.
What's going on? Fight Talk Only saying late as balls, but what's up, boys? Shout out to Fight Talk Only. Go follow this man on Twitter. He makes awesome graphics and collects all of the handicappers' opinions of fights on fight day eve, usually on Friday and Saturday. This guy's collecting, one handicapper per fight, getting everybody's opinions and their best bets together on a nice, clean graphic on Twitter. Love this guy's work, dude. Awesome to see you in here. And honestly, these past 2 fights, Tatiana Suarez, we're pretty confident in. I know it's a big, chalky money line, but I think it's a good matchup for her. And we're obviously pretty high on Corey Sandhagen here. Again, big money line, but just a lot going for him. So you got to expect that. Minus 140 for those 2 fighters in the parlay. And that's something I have a bet on myself here. So those are 2 of my more confident fighters just in the final phase of the fight. I don't have to sweat it out too long. I just have to sweat out those last 2 fighters there. I think they're in a good spot to win. So Tyler's in the same boat here, but looking at the inside the distance, I'm looking at that too, man. If I could find a better line on Corey, because it would be a knockout, right? I mean, does Corey have any submission? He just got a few on his record, right?
I think it could be a club and sub. I mean, it's possible.
Yeah. Especially if the ref doesn't stop the fight, he's gotta finish it by submission on his own terms, Let's see here. Rob's durability a little bit overstated. Says 2 cents. Munoz club and subbed him years ago. Yeah, this guy has had a lot of fights where, man, he's such a good pure boxer. Like it's so when you're giving him a guy like an Adrian Yanez, that's when I was like, okay, this looks like more of an even fight for him. As a dog, I took him, but in this spot, you're looking at Corey Sandhagen, who's going to be fighting out of both stances, elbows and up close, knees up close, jabs out of both sides, and kicks at range. I just think he's got him, and he makes really good decisions too, Narco. Like Corey Sandhagen, he never puts himself in really bad spots here. I just think he's, he'll find the finish. If he can smell blood, he'll swarm on you, but he's not going to put himself in a bad way just to chase that early or something stupid. So, aside from Peter Yan obviously is a guy who's in his prime was kind of like that, right? A guy who could grapple and strike with the best of them, fast and in and out movement. Aljamain Sterling, obviously a really strong grappler, the current champion, but like who else for you got to have a really strong, stifling wrestling game plan, I think, to take down Corey Sandhagen at this point, right? Like who's stopping this guy?
Yeah, I mean, you have to have wrestling on the feet. He's hard, man. He's hard to deal with. He's got like so many weapons, elbows, knees, flying shit. I mean, kicks. His hands are really good. He's really smooth. He moves his head well. He's got great cardio. Like he's hard to deal with. Yeah, that's a reason why this guy is a top 5 guy right now sitting and he's gonna threaten for the championship. And I would love to see, honestly, a rerun of that Aljamain Sterling fight, because I think it plays out a little differently. Like, yeah, Aljamain got the sub really quick, but what happens if that fight extends, man?
Absolutely. All right. Well, we made it through all 12 fights here. Just to run through, since I didn't do this is the first time I didn't do a full card breakdown, so I'm glad you were here to break it down with me. I just feel like I lost a day this week, Narco. Like I ran out of time with work and everything else. The picks on this one going from the bottom to the top. I'm on Almabaev, which we're both on. Woodson, I'll take. I'm on the Cody Durden side of this one. Billy Q, Carlston Harris, Kyler Phillips, Bahamondes pretty confidently. Tanner Boser with 0 confidence. That's the least confident pick of the card. I'm on Lopes, Dustin Jacoby, Tatiana Suarez, and Corey Sandhagen to wrap it all up. I know Fight Talk was asking for our opinions on our favorite spots in the prelims. I know you and I both have a money line bet, Narco, on Almabaev, and we both do like violence in the Jeremiah Wells Carlston Harris. So maybe the under 2.5 on that fight, Harris and Wells, and then we both like Almabaev as well. I know those were two we were both pretty strong on. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
All right.
I like the under. I like violence in that fight, and yeah, I like Almabaev.
All right, man. Well, again, people know who you are. You've been on my show before. We interact a lot, whether it's here or on Brady's channel doing our best bet every now and then, too. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Had your buddy Tim Troiano on, of course, a couple of weeks ago. Always a pleasure talking to the guys at the Lambeau Plays podcast. The floor is yours to shout out your content. I know you release a ton of free content, but I think you do have some subscription or some paid picks as well, right?
No, I have nothing paid.
Nothing?
I just blocked my picks from Bet MMA starting this week because.
No, but you don't do a Patreon or anything like that either?
No.
Okay,
There's
gotcha.
nothing paid. I have nothing paid. Everything is out there.
Nice.
But yeah, I have my YouTube. It's NarcocopMMA under Narcocop_MMA. My Twitter, Narcocop. I'm doing something new every Thursday now. I'm doing an AMA. Ask me anything about UFC cards. I did one last week. I had a lot of viewers, so I was surprised. And then everybody said, "Can you please do an AMA again this week?" So I'm going to do one tomorrow. Forgot what time. I don't know the time yet, but it's going to be roughly around this time, maybe. And I also have my Lambeau Place podcast every Friday with Timothy Troiano, 9 Eastern on that one. And my live spaces every fight card. We go live, we give live plays. It's actually been crazy. Maybe 200-300 people. So yeah, that's it, man. And shout out to everybody in chat.
Yeah, man, I can't vouch enough for your work, man. Just an awesome guy, a good friend in the community. And if you want to learn not only how to make money on this sport, just following this man's plays, I recommend it, but also like how to bet, the process behind the crazy madness that you see in those high payout props that him and Tim are dropping on Friday nights. There's a method to the madness, guys. You can't be this lucky week in and week out. Obviously, these guys know their stuff, so make sure you follow my man Narco. His links are in the description. And I'll talk to you guys soon. I'll drop that best bets and props video once I finalize my betting action in the next day or two. I'm looking to drop some other kinds of content to this channel too, which I've been cooking up in the background. And good luck in all of your action. Enjoy UFC Nashville, everybody. I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.